You're listening to the Candid Comms podcast with Rachel Miller. Join me every week for practical advice and inspirational ideas to help you focus on all things internal communication related. Welcome to the show. On this week's episode, I have a very special guest for you, and I'm delighted to introduce Laura to the Candid Comms podcast. So I'm going to hand you over so you can introduce yourself properly.
Hi, Rachel, and great accent. Thank you.
I tried. Is that all right?
Perfect. Thank you for having me. My name is Laura Colantuono. I am the International Communications and Employer Branding Manager International at Kraft Heinz. I also celebrate my first year in this role, actually, and a full year working from home.
Congratulations. Wow, I can't believe it's a year already. My goodness.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Gosh, congratulations.
Thanks.
So, as you can tell from Laura's beautiful accent, she is based in the UK. However, she's had a unique internal comms journey from Italy to the UK. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to invite you onto the podcast to share your experience of working in internal comms, not just in one country in particular. So I wonder whether you could please share with us your journey from Italy to the UK and focusing on internal comms.
Of course. So as you said, I'm Italian. I have an Italian passport, but I've spent almost half of my life abroad. I was born in South Africa and grew up in Turkey. So not only Italy, and moved back to Italy actually when I was 18. I've always known that, I wanted to start my career in comms. I knew that was my future. I think the moment I asked my parents for, a typewriter on my 8th birthday, right? So
did you?
Yes,
Nice.
I did. And, I knew that something was, coming, but I wasn't quite sure whether there was a career in journalism or corporate comms, right? So in my first year at uni, I started working for a local newspaper and a TV network, but it wasn't until my master's degree in marketing comms that I started seeing myself working for one of those global companies I was reading about in my marketing books. And my dream came true. So I started my career in comms at Unilever Italy over 10 years ago. At first in external comms, but I remember looking at my colleague sitting next to me who was managing IC and thinking, oh, wow, this is what I want to do. And so when she moved to external comms and I got offered the role, I was over the moon. I'm really proud to say that I chose IC and I'm loving it.
Can I ask you what it was about her role that made you think, I want to do that? What attracted you?
So what I loved about internal comms was really the diversity of topics and skills that you have to have. So, one day she was writing about D&I, the other day about sustainability, and the fact that you could really have an impact on your people's life at work. That was fascinating. So, I was super happy. I didn't know much about it, but when I jumped into the role, I just felt that I was in the right place.
What a great feeling. And I love the fact that you chose internal communication. I think particularly those grains of thought at an early age that you knew there was something there, that whether it was journalism or corporate communication that attracted you. So tell me about your internal comms career journey within Italy. So how, and I know that you've moved industries, particularly within Italy. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, sure. So over my 4 years at Unilever, I learned a lot about internal comms, right? So how the function creates value, from comms strategies to setting KPIs, employee engagement plans, change comms, and the different approach you need to have for your office-based employees versus factories, and big topics like D&I and sustainability. So I was there when they launched the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, and I led the local campaign for that and the local comms and engagement plan for the local sustainability strategy. And I had the chance to meet so many people from all around the world. And I was actually coming to London quite often. And in 2012, I also did a 3-month assignment in Turkey. So I went back home to work on a marketing project. So pretty intense years. After 4 years in FMCG, I was curious to really explore something new. And I moved to luxury. So I spent the following 5 years at Fendi, the Italian fashion house. which is part of the French luxury group LVMH, but headquartered in Rome. So I changed industry completely, and the scope of my role became global. At Fendi, I helped establish an internal comms culture. Just a few months after I joined, we launched the first global intranet and started to measure comms. But what I loved about this new chapter was the ability to really adapt my tone of voice and style to a new culture with very different business and a very diverse employees based in different regions and across 200 stores. I think, the beauty of our role is that you can use your tactics and the tools of your job and create something new each time, depending on the context, which is amazing. But it was, I think, just a matter of time until I moved abroad again for one reason or another. I knew it was coming. And that's what I did 2 years ago. So the reason why I moved to the UK was predominantly personal. I joined my fiancé, who was already working here. And to be honest, it took me almost a year to decide whether it was the right move at that time and to really overcome the fear, right, of the unknown. But I think I did the right choice. I'm glad I was brave enough to embrace the challenge. Scary, yes, but worth it. So I left Rome on a Wednesday. It was the beginning of May 2019. And 4 days later, I joined Harrods to lead their internal comms team.
Amazing. I love that shift from Unilever into luxury. And I'm always fascinated by the different cultures that we have within internal comms. And as you mentioned, the different types of employees that we have in different locations. And the beautiful thing about internal comms is that the fundamental principles remain the same, but what we do and how we do it might change. But that the foundations of internal comms about connecting our people and giving them voices, I find, are the same regardless of the sector that we're in. And Harrods is such a well-known brand as well. I mean, your CV has some amazing logos on it. And so I'm curious to know, from your experience, how have you found it communicating in different languages? What's that been like for you?
Well, working in internal comms, as you said, I think it's like being like an octopus, if you will. You are really adaptable, and you need to change your voice and tone of voice depending on the culture that you have around you. So communicating in different languages to me was quite the norm. I was already doing that while I was in Italy working at Unilever and Fendi. But when I stepped into my first global role at Fendi, I had to launch the first intranet. And it was just so clear that English wasn't enough, right? So we decided to translate everything in the 5 most spoken languages across the company and add subtitles in these languages to all our internal videos. And today, in my current role at Kraft Heinz, the main language is English, yes. I have to, I started dreaming in English at this point, right? So, Italian is like, yeah, which is great. And I'm also quite fluent in Turkish. So sometimes it's kind of like, okay, it's a little bit messy. But yeah, so English is my first language today. And we reach all of our colleagues and all over the world. And to make sure that communications are understood and clear, we also do local comms in local languages. We use live captions during virtual events, and we provide local translations as much as possible for the main global campaigns, like employee engagement survey and big change campaigns for sure.
Can I ask you what the impact is for your employees when you're translating into perhaps their native language or their preferred written or spoken language? What do you see as the impact of doing that and taking the time to invest time, money, and effort in translation?
It's just so important. It's just a must. You need to be inclusive. You need to take into account, the diversity of the cultures and the people that you're talking to. And it's just not a dry email, right? It's much more than that. We communicate around values, purpose, strategy, and you need to make sure that they're all aligned, all on board, and the all key messages are understood and they really feel part of it, right? Regardless where they're based.
Yeah, absolutely. So your career path then, you moved to the UK, you moved to Harrods, and then when did you join Kraft Heinz?
In May 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. So,
And how was that? What was it like to join an organization in the middle of a pandemic?
It was hard. I mean, as communicator, you want to see people, you want to be there, you want to chat and observe, right? And I couldn't do any of this. But I think the culture is so great that everyone really helped me. I'm still stuck in my living room, right? So I haven't seen anyone in person yet, not even my beautiful office inside the Shard. So I really can't wait to go. I think that tech really helped. Obviously, I couldn't do my face-to-face meetings and all the amazing things that you do in your first couple of months when you join a new company. But I had lots of Teams meetings, a lot, really trying to get to know people, ask questions on any occasion, and really trust and trust the journey. So my team really helped me. I have two amazing direct reports based, one in Italy and the other one in Germany. And you just don't need to be afraid of asking questions and show your vulnerability, if you like, right? So we might not have all the answers, but you ask questions, you learn about the history of your company and the future, and you try to build on that and to really understand where you are and what your role needs to be.
I remember seeing when you joined Kraft Heinz, you put a photograph on LinkedIn of an amazing goodie box that you were given with some ketchup, and you had all of these products that you were given. And I remember seeing that and thinking, I wonder what that feels like to join an organization which is so iconic with such iconic products, but you're not there in terms of being in the office. So I was curious about that and how that would feel, whether you feel part of that organization and that pride, I should imagine, of being part of such an innovative organization when you're in your sitting room, when you're not able to be there. So it's good to hear you talk about that and good to hear you share what that experience has been like. And I think you're right. We just have to ask questions constantly, don't we? We have to. Great to have good people around you to support you. Were your team members enrolled before the pandemic?
Yes.
Was that helpful?
Yeah, it was super helpful. And I've had an amazing extended team of professionals in each of our BUs. So, they really help a lot, understand the culture and the values and what internal comms looked like. And, what was great is that 1 week after I joined, we actually launched our new values, vision and purpose. So, I really had the role of embedding this in everything we were doing and bringing them to life. And that was quite challenging, but exciting.
1 week.
1 week.
So you've been there for 1 week. Gosh. Yeah. So welcome. What an amazing project, though. These sorts of topics that we have to get our teeth into. Normally, ideally, we'd like to get our head around the culture and settle in, but you were right in there. Love it. So can I ask you about the comm skills that you've developed as you've changed locations and changed roles? What set you in good stead, do you think?
Well, I would say adaptability and flexibility, 100%. Our role is so much under the spotlight that you need to be up to speed fast, right? So I would say that together with strong understanding of people and cultures, and curiosity. This is what pushes me forward and makes me want to learn more and do better. And I would say last but not least, empathy. Every new experience, positive or negative, taught me how to connect with people a little bit more, a little bit deeper. And that really helped me in my role.
Wonderful. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I'm going to be asking Laura about effective internal communication inside a global FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods organization. See you in a moment. Comms friends, I'd love to invite you to join me at the water cooler every month. This is my email newsletter, which is packed with ideas, with jobs, with news, and the latest goings on in the wonderful world of internal communication. Head over to my website, allthingsic.com/newsletter to add your name and join me at the water cooler every month. Welcome back. In the final part of today's episode, we're going to be talking about effective internal communication. But before we do, Laura, I'd love to know from your perspective, what is it like to be an internal communicator based in Italy? What's the environment like over there? If you wouldn't mind casting your mind back and sharing, is there a good network of internal comms pros in Italy? What does that feel like?
Yeah, so well, we're getting there. When I started, I was really struggling to find other practitioners, and as we discussed many times, internal comms can either be part of HR or marketing. You don't always have someone officially doing internal comms, right? So we didn't have a professional body or many occasion of just sharing best practices. And while I was thinking about moving to the UK, I was already following you, Rachel, and some other great practitioners here in the UK, following the IOC and thinking, oh, wow, we really need something like this. And I think the first thing I did when I moved to London was to join IOC. And now I'm starting to see that it's also happening in Italy and in Europe as such, with other different professional bodies and companies really trying to nurture this culture of internal comms in Italy as well. But nothing like what I saw here in the UK, really. So much around that, so much support for practitioners, not only professional bodies, but just networking events. And I can't wait for a pandemic to be over to start that all over again. So much that I've been experiencing since I moved to the UK that I wish I can use one day and take it back to my country.
I think we're spoiled for choice. I often think that people who are based in the UK don't realise how lucky we are through things like the Institute of Internal Communication that you mentioned, and professional bodies like the Chartered Institute of Public Relations. They are global organisations, but they are headquartered here in the UK, and particularly, the sectoral group like CIPR Inside. We are spoiled for choice for internal comms practitioners in terms of the different sorts of industry bodies we can tap into. But I hear you. I think there is something about being here and pre-pandemic, being able to meet with other people in person, which you can't really beat. So I'm also excited to hopefully, when restrictions lift, to get back together as practitioners to network and communicate. I think virtual only goes so far, doesn't it? You and I were on a call with the IOIC during lockdown, weren't we, in 2020?
Yep.
And we were swapping notes, weren't we, and sharing experiences. That was right at the start of the pandemic. Thank you. So I'm curious to know about effective internal communication, and particularly thinking about what does effective internal communication in a global, fast-moving consumer goods organization look like? Small question.
Small question. So I would say internal comms is fast and vast, if you like, right? So it is a very strategic role that requires lots of stakeholder management, influencing skills, deep knowledge of the business and your people. You have such a vast and diverse audience that, you really need to master that craft of tailoring your message from big global multi-markets campaigns to local plans. And I think to be effective and inclusive, you really need to plan a lot. You need to think strategically, taking into consideration so many different things, from time zones to languages, which channel to use, depending if you're talking to your office-based employees or your blue-collar population, right? What is the best way to reach them, depending on their local habits as well. And finally, I think you need to be a great storyteller. So, whether you are talking about D&I or your ESG strategy of the launch of a new product, you need to cut through the noise and connect the hearts and minds of thousands of employees spread across the globe so that they can really feel part of it.
Can I just pick you up on ESG that you mentioned there? So environmental and social governance. This is a topic which I'm certainly reading more about at the moment. Could you help me understand what you're doing at Kraft Heinz in terms of ESG?
Yeah, so in September last year, we launched our most recent report. And hence, I started working on a communication plan that could really bring that to life for employees. I think it's so important that they understand why we're doing this, why our products are, really driving the change, and connect them with the purpose of it. So especially when you have such a broad audience from all over the world, it needs to be relevant to them as well. So not just telling the story of something that is happening, I don't know, in the US, right? You need to tell stories of how they are contributing, right? What the factories in Asia are doing, what Europe is doing, and how the brands are really the superstar of it. So R&D, innovations, how, you know, the whole product life cycle has a huge impact. And it's really important to make employees understand what environmental social governance means, right? And what are the goals? So we at Kraft Heinz, we have 3 pillars: environmental stewardship, responsible sourcing, and healthy living and community support. So I always include one piece of comms around ESG in all my newsletters on a monthly basis at least, and tell stories on how we are achieving these goals. So just this morning, I just posted on LinkedIn a great achievement about one of our brands in Italy. Launching fully recyclable packaging. And you need to tell the stories behind this so that is relevant and important to everybody. So one day you communicate around a recyclable package, the other day about reduction of sugar and salt in your products, and the day after maybe on some amazing campaign you did to support the communities around you.
Nice. There's lots of great content then, lots of good stories. I love the fact that common theme in all of that is storytelling, isn't it? Bringing everything to life. So particularly for policies or procedures where you might look at something like ESG or when we love an acronym, don't we? Or CSR, corporate social responsibility. Yeah. I think to really help our employees understand why this matters and why this is important. I love seeing stories inside organizations to bring all that to life. So it doesn't just feel like words on a page or ambitions that we have as organizations, but they can see how they can fit in, and they can see how the work they do contributes to our aspirations as organizations. Thank you for sharing that. That's super useful. So I'm going to bring our conversation to a close by asking you, as this is the Candid Comms podcast, what does being candid mean to you?
Wow, love this question. I would say being myself and staying true to myself in my personal life as well as an IC practitioner. We talked about not being afraid of asking questions, right? And show our vulnerable side, if you like. But at the same time, I think we need to have the courage to speak up and share our thoughts, especially in our role, and really be that trustworthy advisor that we need to be. So believe in yourself and stay true to yourself. That's what it means to me.
Wonderful. What a lovely way to close our conversation. Laura, thank you so much for your generosity in sharing your skills and expertise with us. If people want to find you online, where's the best place to do that?
On LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. Fabulous. Yes. And I will include a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. But thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing all of your skills and knowledge and expertise with us. Hugely appreciated.
Thank you, Rachel. My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today for this episode. If you would like to find out more about internal comms, do check out the All Things IC website, allthingsic.com. You can find me on Twitter at allthingsic or Rachel allthingsic on Instagram. And the show notes can be found at allthingsic.com/podcast. And remember, what happens inside is reflected outside. See you again soon.